Hi there. Welcome to Season 3 of But Seriously, the Cancer Podcast. My name is Bert Scholl. I'm a two-time cancer survivor, a cancer survivorship coach, and I'm the creator and host of But Seriously, the Cancer Podcast. To learn more about my coaching services, please go to bertscholl.com. That's BERTSCHOLL.com. We'd also really love your feedback, which you could provide by going to the bertscholl.com contact page and filling out the form. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook at But Seriously the Cancer Podcast and on Twitter at But Seriously TCP. And make sure you check out our Patreon page at patreon.com/But Seriously the Cancer Podcast. And thank you so much for all you do. Today's guest is Jake O'Brien. Jake is a young, outgoing man who's always been fascinated with all things health and self-development. He's been thrown a whole bunch of challenges through his life, all of which he has found a way to overcome. Jake is passionate about fitness, mental health, and showing up as the best he can be no matter what. I really enjoyed this conversation with Jake because, to put it simply, it's raw. Jake is strong, honest, and vulnerable, and willing to be seen exactly where he is, even when he's still in the process of picking up the pieces. Jake has been cancer-free for 6 months. Hey Jake, welcome to the podcast.
G'day Bert, how you doing, mate?
I'm doing real well. How about you?
Really good today. Had a nice night's sleep and it's a beautiful sunny day and life is good. So I'm all right.
It's pretty warm where you are right now.
It is, yeah. It's pretty muggy and chat, but it's warm. It's good though. Like I said, I've got a bit of fresh ink at the moment, so I want to stay out of the sun for a few days at least. So
yeah, I understand. That's the way of it. We're covered in a blanket of snow right now up here in the town. Oh yeah.
Wow.
Winter's
That's
going
so cool.
full on.
I love the winter. I haven't seen snow in years, but I did a couple of seasons snowboarding and stuff in Australia here, and best years of my life. Yeah, it was really good.
Is that right? And I don't know much about the geography of Australia. Is there a lack of snow, or is it just where you're located in Australia?
Yeah, so I'm in Sydney, Australia. There isn't really much snow apart from you go west and then down about 15 hours and you find a little patch of Australia that snows, like Mount Kosciuszko area.
All right. Yeah, I used to snowboard years ago, and man, I loved it because I skateboarded as a kid. So then when I got into snowboarding, I'm like, oh, I can do this.
Easy.
So great. Maybe I'll get back into it someday. Anyway, so tell everybody what kind of cancer you were diagnosed with.
All right, straight into it. So it was, what year is it now? 21. It was only a year ago, pretty much exactly, January 2020. I was diagnosed with laryngeal cancer, which is cancer of the voice box. Hence why I sound a little bit croakier than usual person. And that's speaking at a nice low tone. Find it hard to project my voice and stuff these days. But yeah, laryngeal cancer back in January 20.
And how old were you?
28, 27, something like that.
27, 28 years old. All right. This gives everyone an idea. And laryngeal, so that is cancer of the voice box.
That's it. Yeah. In Australia, I was pretty much one of the youngest cases. Like, they were all pretty baffled that I had it. It's mostly seen in kind of pack-a-day smokers that are like 50 years old plus. And I'm personally pretty health conscious and don't really smoke and don't really know why it happened to me so young, but I kind of do. The previous year, I'd actually been involved in a big motorcycle accident and broke my neck and all kinds of things, and had a spinal fusion of C1 and 2, and
wow.
Yeah, so had a lot of injuries and a big rehab, and yeah, I was like back at work for about a month, and my voice started getting all croaky, and I was like, what's going on here? And one of my best mates had asked me to MC for his wedding earlier in 2019, because I'm quite eccentric and outspoken and the type of guy who wanted to MC for him. And that was kind of a few months beforehand, and I was like, yeah, no worries. And then my voice just got kind of worse and worse, and by the time it was the date of the wedding, I was literally could not talk. It was embarrassing to say the least, but I being my stubborn self, kind of stuck it out and was like, no, I'll do it. But it was like, no, I'll do it. It's not going to be okay. Yeah, it was pretty embarrassing. Luckily, we had someone else to kind of help out with the whole process, and we kind of shared the role, and he pretty much ended up having to take over because, I just couldn't talk. There's, previously it had, my close friends and my clients and stuff saying, oh, it's all right, you just sound a bit like Christian Bale or something. But then I had like, a room full of 100 people thinking I was just on a week-long bender, and yeah, so it was,
Yeah, dude couldn't lay back for one night before his buddy's wedding.
yeah, seriously. So that was pretty embarrassing. But that was kind of the catalyst that made me go, all right, this is not right. Like I did nothing to deserve to have my voice to be like this. So went and saw an ENT specialist, and they saw some little bumps and stuff, and they said, oh, it's probably what we call nodules, which is pretty common in people like singers and people who just basically don't know how to use their voice properly and overuse it. And me being a fitness trainer and working in a gym, I did use my voice a lot. And so they kind of put it down to that, but they did a biopsy anyway. Came back as positive for cancer. Along with that, though, it did come along as positive for HPV, which isn't very common in Australia. I believe it's very common in the US. I think there's a vaccine going around for it.
Yeah.
But I guess I missed that day of school and didn't get that vaccine. So I had kind of the cancer kind of attached to that. So my hypothesis is that, the trauma of the bike accident the year before, because it was such a complicated fracture, I fractured my odontoid peg, which is like the thing right next to your brainstem. They were really cautious about me taking off my neck brace. So 6 months after wearing a neck brace for 6 months, they said, we want to run some more tests before we allow you to, take it off and get back to work. And part of those tests were just like stupid amounts of MRIs and X-rays and CAT scans. And ultimately they decided that it was unstable and they had to fuse the joints together, which involved major surgery and tubes down my throat going past the larynx and, constant monitoring with different scans. And I'm pretty sure I just more or less had a HPV sitting in there my whole life from my early 20s onwards, not really affecting me. And then the incident of the year before kind of, is what triggered I think metastasis is the correct term, of it into cancer. So that's kind of where it all started.
So it traveled from like the wherever the HPV was location, it then traveled into the voice box.
Well, no, the HPV was probably only ever kind of sitting on my voice box for however many years it was there, just undiagnosed. So like, it wasn't like it's an STD, but mine wasn't like on my lips or on my genitals or anything like that. It was just in my voice box.
Yeah.
I don't really tell many people this, so this is pretty raw, but that's kind of where it started, I think. What happened? They cut a little bit off and they went, fuck, man, I'm really sorry. You have cancer. Here's the next steps, blah, 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 blah. And
no, it's some pretty serious trauma though to the body to break your neck. I mean, I drove a bike for probably 12 years and, I dumped it a couple times, but never had any injuries, just soreness, you know? And that's what we all fear, is wiping out on your bike, breaking your neck, something like that. And here you are, like moving your head around,
totally
sitting
sweet.
in front of you.
Yeah, it's pretty.
Yeah, I see you on your Instagram feed, working out.
Working out's a big deal for me, and yeah,
man. And to be able to stay healthy and just to say it, man, just to not be paralyzed, like, wow.
I think about it like sometimes I'm like, it's so unnatural, the fact that I was able to go that fast, for one thing. The fact that humans, like, you look back 400 years or whatever, and we barely, cavemen or whatever, and you could go as fast as you could run. And here we are today, like the same build, but we've got these super powered machines that can. Mine wasn't a super powered machine, it was a hunk of junk, but it got me around. I was going about 60 odd Ks an hour, and just someone cut right in front of me. And so I just went 60 Ks an hour, bang, straight into the side of that door.
Oh.
Just how unnatural that instinct is to happen. And then how unnatural it is for me to be able to be put back together and survive and whatever afterwards. Just the whole thing's just a bit mind blowing to me.
Absolutely, man. You put it so well. It's like, we created something that has us go far beyond our own physical capacity and has the impact on your body far beyond what a human body's accustomed to. You know, the only way we would go that fast if that's how fast we were falling.
Yeah, exactly.
And you get that kind of impact, and you got through it. Grateful for that, man. That's a scary thing, but
anyway, yeah.
Anyway, yeah, man.
This is the But Seriously podcast, not the Butt Bike Accident podcast. But seriously.
Well, you know, it does make me think about just, you know, as you imagine the origin of the cancer, it has me think like, well, you know, when there's heavy trauma on the body, I wonder what that can cause. Like, so I was diagnosed in 2007 with stage 2 rectal cancer, and I got through it, got back on my feet, back to work after a couple of years. And then, so in 2010, my wife ended our marriage. We're close now, and we're no longer together. But back then, I was furious, you know what I mean? And it was very upsetting. And I was drinking a ton, and I was angry as all hell.
Yep.
And then like 10 months later, the cancer metastasized to my liver. Am I saying that I did it? No. Am I saying people do that? No. What I'm saying is, I wonder if being angry as all hell, just, you know, venom just pulsing through my veins and drinking a lot of scotch and a lot of whiskey, like, I don't think it helped, dude.
No. It's a funny topic, isn't it? We do and we don't know what can cause it. You can have someone that drinks scotch and whiskey every day of their whole life, and don't get it.
Yep.
I got mates and family members that smoke cigarettes constantly, and they don't have any health issues. And it's just like, you know, fuck you, you know, like,
yeah.
I'm some like health nut that's done nothing but take care of himself, and yeah, here I am diagnosed with cancer. So it was a real kick when I was down when I got my diagnosis, and I imagine the same for you, bloody. Yeah, it sounds horrible. You know, you're going through some mental trauma there, and boom, it's back. So
37 years old, diagnosed with stage 2 rectal cancer, no cancer like that in the family, no reason to even have it. Doctors are like, we have no idea why you have this. It doesn't make sense. You know, and hell, you're 10 years younger than me when you got diagnosed, and only a year after you recovered. I mean, were you really recovered emotionally from the bike accident?
No, not at all. And I'm still working on a bit of PTSD, and I see a therapist, and I got some mental health issues going on in my life, and I open up about a lot of those through my socials and whatever, and recently. And I suppose I had a pretty funny upbringing as well. Let's call it dysfunctional. And then the bike accident happened, and you know, I've always been very like, here's what I'm doing. I'm proactive. The mask of masculinity, got this. I'm strong. I'm powerful. I'll overcome whatever life throws at me.
Yep.
And then when cancer hit, and I was just like, cool, I'm still going to wear that mask and be the strong, like, not even like when I found out I was with my partner, and she just kind of, you know, instantly burst into tears. And I just didn't. I just kind of took the news and walked outside and didn't really cry properly. And then I was like, oh, fuck, I'm going to have to call my mum and tell her, aren't I? And called mum and told her, and I could, you know, I couldn't even, it was like, it wasn't even crying. It was just like dark, sad energy pulsating through the phone. And she's like, I'll meet you at home. And yeah, my best mate was at home, and like everyone around me was just so sad and crying. And I was just like, sort of felt like I had my shit together. And yeah, I think it took a while, and yeah, it takes a while to process things as a bloke, especially. I think we're not very good at kind of allowing ourselves to express like the discomfort, the fear, and all the other things that aren't brave and strong. And yeah, no, it kind of bottled up for a while, to be honest. And I was very like staying in that proactive game. And then one day I was just like, you know what? And I just felt a bit and had a bit of a mental breakdown. And then that was actually quite nice, because that opened me up to allow myself to, you know, let it trickle out when it needed to, rather than keep the cap on until I was feeling really, really bad. Yeah, so looking back, I'm declared in remission, and at the moment, I have heard that before though. And so yeah, it's a funny thing to deal with, isn't it? The old C word, trying to wrap my head around like going back into a normal job, but I'm like fearful it's going to come back. So I've actually resigned as a PT, because, you know, it's a hustle and it's a hard business to run normally. And with COVID kind of affecting the fitness industry as it has, and then me kind of just being scared of getting shit all sorted and together and a good client base, and then my cancer returning, that's a real fear I still hold very close to my heart. And I can admit that though, and I think maybe 8 months ago or so, I wouldn't. I still had my uniform hanging up, like, I'll put this back on one day. And yeah, it's kind of bit the bullet the other week, and when I better resign from this career for now. And I've got some other stuff in the works, so much more suitable to someone that can't really talk all day long. Yeah, it's been a fucking journey between now and then. So
yeah, I bet, man. I mean, and I've noticed on your Instagram feed, like, I've really appreciated your honesty and your vulnerability, and you're saying, like, look, it's a hard day. I mean, I know I watched a video on there of you just crying, and you're like, you want to know what it's like to deal with this? This is what it's like. Like, and I had my own masculinity issues, and I thought I was like well, I am a sensitive person. I thought I was an emotionally expressed person, but then I got diagnosed. I was like, oh shit, like this whole like masculine got it handled thing, it's not going to get me through this.
Doesn't help.
Like,
No.
I'm devastated. I'm scared to death. My stepson was 9 and my son was 4 months old. Like, there was no keeping it together, man. I had to just let it happen. And it was, to be honest, we didn't have Instagram back then. I had just, Facebook was just going, but I had a blog, you know what I mean? It was a public blog, and I would just put on there like, yeah, what do I have to give up today? I gotta give up this image of masculinity and the fear of what all of you guys who I compare myself to are going to think about me, because like it's tearing me apart, and it's wasting my day. And like, I want to live, man. And I don't want to get caught up in like, it's drama that it's so imposed on us as guys, the way women have, their whole thing about, being a woman and being feminine and this and that. We all have it. We're all dealing with it. And I love hearing that you finally just like tossed it aside, because it's, I had to do the same thing. It wasn't serving. It had a purpose before cancer. It wasn't serving a purpose after I got diagnosed.
Yeah. One thing I've definitely learned is that you can't get grumpy and shitty at your old self for the tools that you naturally created to protect yourself. You only, put on that mask to, make yourself feel neutral, which is like, you look at a baby, and a baby is either crying, laughing its head off, or not really doing much at all. If it was laughing its head off constantly and super happy all the time, it would be a fucking weird baby, like you want it to be generally happy and at peace. Yeah. That's the goal, to be at peace, right? And to be, once you've set goals up and stuff as an adult, to be chipping away at those, that's great. But to pretend to be constantly happy is weird. We should be able to just cry, get on with it, be neutral again, chip away at your goals. That's kind of how I see it now. And I think that you mentioned there, putting it all to the side completely. I still value that tool of being an alpha male and being tough here and there. And you can hold both, at the same time. You can be vulnerable, but you can also, be a strong dude that's going to get through things and has a positive mindset. And yeah, I think it's just like, as society kind of, and the whole world of social media and everything develops, we kind of have a lot of stuff in our face of just the happy end of the spectrum and the highlights reels and all that. And yeah, that's kind of like my goal, is to kind of be like, hey, that, I'm generally posting pretty happy stuff, and I'm generally okay. Like, I'm doing fine, but sometimes I'm not. And I might feel like expressing that to the world as part of my own therapy to myself, to put my feelings out there. Cause we don't live in little tribes anymore, where if you're sad and crying, you've got, 10 of your tribesmen coming over to, nurture you back to feeling better. You're, we're quite isolated these days, and the internet is kind of this weird new thing that ties us all together. And I don't know, for me, like it is a space where it can be very therapeutic. Like you said, even your blog back in 2007, was it? You were able to kind of almost like diary into your blog, and, journaling and diarying, writing in a diary, is so therapeutic, but I hate my own handwriting and I don't really keep a very neat diary. So for me, my outlet was yeah, just kind of getting online and just kind of being a bit more raw and vulnerable there. And that was a therapeutic method for me to kind of feel a bit, like I'm letting stuff out, which was a little bit easier than maybe physically crying and stuff at first, is maybe just talking about it a bit more openly.
It's super valuable with social media or whatever you're using, to tell the truth and to just actually be where we are. And when we can write it or just put it down in some kind of form, for me, when I write something down, it takes it out of spinning in my head and makes it concrete, and then I
Yeah,
can actually look at it and be like, okay, that is
yeah,
how I feel.
yeah,
You know?
100%. You get to kind of get all these whirlwind of things, and you put them on the table, and you can start to. It's like setting up a chess table or something. It's like a whole mess, and then everything has its place, and you're like, right, now I can play. Like, yeah,
Right. Now I can see what I'm dealing with. Well put.
yeah,
Exactly.
yeah,
And and for me, as far as I like how you said, there's the alpha male side of you, but also like the honest emotional side. Like for me, I'm definitely not alpha male, but I've always been like, let's say you and I were working on a job together that, it's just like, swinging hammers or swinging shovels. You may be able to lift more than me, but I can always keep up. You know what I mean? I would just push
yeah,
my
cool.
body. Like there's no stopping me. And
Yeah, I'm not saying that I'm alpha male, like, but there's aspects of that to me, definitely, for sure. But yeah, I think I walk into a room, and if there's another big personality, I'll be like, okay, you can be the big personality, and I'll sit back and let you like take control. That's fine. I'll just sit
Gotcha.
back
All
here.
right, that
Yeah.
makes sense. Yeah. So, but for me, like whatever version of that persona lives within me, like you put it really well, that it can be there, but also have your emotions expressed. And it's I think growing up as men, we look at, oh, okay, like this is what it means to be a guy, and you put these masks on, and we're just told that emotion, some sadness or whatever kind of emotion it is, men are allowed to be happy, men are allowed to laugh, men are allowed to be angry. That's about it. But when the
Yeah.
sadness is there, it's like, oh, so I can still be like, you can still be, you're a good sized dude, and if you play the alpha male sometimes in the room, you can still be that and have the emotion. And it's like, huh, okay, I didn't know that was an option. Cool. Like you
Mm.
don't, it's not one or the other.
It's not what we grow up to believe, though.
Right.
And like, if we say the word masculine, I did a post recently kind of questioning, what is toxic masculinity mean to you guys? Here's what I think of. I think masculinity is a beautiful thing, but what is it when it's toxic? And I got a whole bunch of responses, and one of them directed me towards this movie. And if any of your listeners are interested in this topic, watch this film. It's a little doco on YouTube, and yeah, it just sunk so deep for me. I think it's called the mask we wear, and that's literally the topic. And it goes into kind of some of the more ghetto regions of America, I believe it's in. Yeah, for instance, it's got all these kids in a room, and they're like talking about stuff, and then they say, "Oh, we want you to write how you kind of express yourself to the world," and they'll be like, cool, fun, bye. And they're like, all right, now I want you to turn the page over and like write how you really feel. And like all these kids kind of stopped and like were like sad and dying inside and all these like really, and they're like, pass it to the next person next to you. And then they're like
Oh,
looking at each other and then like, oh man, like I didn't realize, like, yeah. So really, really, really powerful. That's just one example of, it's an amazing doco, and I highly recommend any blokes out there suffering with this kind of idea of what it means to be a bloke should definitely have a look at that. The mask we wear.
beautiful. I will definitely have it in the description notes
Yeah.
so people can check it out. I will watch that, man. I didn't see the what is toxic masculinity post. Is that something? I don't know if it's something recent you posted or
Oh, it's in there somewhere. Yeah.
in there somewhere. Yeah, I was in the hospital a couple weeks ago. I had a blockage in my small bowel. Apparently, the surgery I had either 9 years ago or 12 years ago created a adhesion scar tissue that develops around the small intestine. And I'm like, when did that happen? They're like, it could have happened last year. I'm like, years after the surgery. They're like, yeah. So speaking of therapy, like I haven't even asked you if you had surgery. We'll talk about that. But I've had 2 major surgeries where they cut me from my sternum down to my pelvic bone. And on the first one, they had to turn me over and then cut me from the bottom of my pelvic bone up to my tailbone. So when they told me I didn't have to have any surgery for this blockage. I was in the hospital for 2 days. I watched Netflix and just like hung out and, relaxed, talked to the nurses. But before, when I didn't know, they said you may have to have surgery. And like for me, I never really fought a war with my cancer diagnosis. But the 2 times I went in for major surgery, I feel like I don't know what it's like to be a soldier, but that's what I envisioned it being. I went in there cool as a cucumber. I'm like, they're about to cut into me and they're going to cut me wide open. Like, I can't get stressed about this. It's beyond, my comprehension. I might not even live through it. Like, I just went into it laughing and, gave my buddy, just doing what you got to do. So my point is, when I was in the hospital a couple of weeks ago for this blockage, they told me I might have to have emergency surgery. And I was just like, wow, I don't get to pick my surgeon. I don't get to pick my hospital. There's no mental preparation for this. And so
here comes the anxiety.
Exactly. But here's the thing.
Yeah.
It didn't hit me until after I got home. Once they released me, I got home that night, and a friend, she stopped by to see how I was doing. And when she opened the door, the armor fell and all the emotion just filled me and just took me over. And I literally felt it coming from all different directions, like, holy shit. And fortunately, I'm working with this fantastic therapist, and I was able to just work it out with him, just like you said, lay the chessboard out and be like, okay, this is what I'm dealing with. I had the armor on going into treatment, or, I had the armor on for my previous surgeries. I'm very familiar with that armor, with that mask when it's time to face a surgery. So I put it all on in the hospital. And okay. And Jake, it took me like almost 2 weeks to the
Pick
emotion.
it off, yeah.
Yeah, man. Just like the emotion
takes
is
time.
coming from every angle. I was like, no, I'm done with surgery, man. No more surgery.
Two weeks after, you mean, is when you started saying that? Yeah.
So
yeah, it hits you at funny times when you're kind of not expecting it. That's for sure. Yeah, for me, maybe like an old, sad, Simple Plan song or something might start playing while I'm working out, and I'll just be like, oh, fuck, it's just kind of lose it.
Yeah,
it just comes around. Yeah, your brain just like tucks it away until it's like feels like it's safe to just kind of untuck, I suppose, open up the box.
Yeah. So that disconnected me from the social media world, and what I'm saying is, like, I really wish I'd seen that post. I'm gonna go look for it.
I'll send it. I'll find it and send it.
Cool,
to you.
man. Because it's toxic masculinity. I love that conversation because masculinity is great. Feminine is great. There's nothing bad about either, but it's just when it gets toxic, when it's not serving anyone.
At what stage is it toxic? The general consensus I got is that it's kind of toxic once it comes out in, violence and rape and all kinds of horrible things that men do. And the thing is that I have had anger issues in the past. I've grown up as a single child with a single mother. So I'm very, 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 very respectful to women, but I still get angry, but I'd never, just to put it out there, lay my hands on a woman, never. I'm nearly 30, never have, never will. But I do still get really angry, and I'll take that anger out on a cement wall in my apartment and punch it as hard as I can. Or I actually broke my foot about a month ago because I stupidly kicked a tree as hard as I could with bare feet, And we call this in therapy the anger iceberg, whereas if you imagine an iceberg and the tip of it is quite small, it's very common in a male to express anger quite easily. It's your kind of go-to emotion. But if you look at an iceberg underneath, it's, 10 times as big as it is on the top. And all that stuff underneath that anger is your sadness, your grief, your depression, whatever it might be. But we find it very challenging to kind of go under and allow those to be expressed. So you have what's called the anger iceberg, and it's about learning to kind of question, why am I angry? Okay, it's because that happened, and how does that happening actually make me feel? Oh, not actually angry. It actually makes me, I'm grieving the loss of, for me, I lost my voice for, a good 12 months. I could barely talk. It's, getting a lot better in the recent few months. But yeah, I was really angry, being the guy I am and being able to communicate. And your voice is obviously a big part of you as a human. And ultimately, the worst thing that was going to happen with my cancer was a tracheostomy. And I, Googled into it. And what comes up first on YouTube is like really, it was pretty disturbing, to be honest. Like so you get the hole in your chest and it's a different voice from your own. It's you can talk and you can communicate, but most of the patients that I was seeing who had the operation were like 50, 60 years old plus. There might be some people out there listening that are 20 and have had it. But from most of the research that I did, I couldn't really see anyone my age, and being in my position, having my job, it was heartbreaking, and I was grieving the potential of that loss, and I just would get fucking angry instead of grieving. And I had to, it was a process to learn how to notice that it wasn't anger. It was potential grief and anxiety and all those other things.
So is it tracheotomy you said that you were looking at the possibility of?
Yeah, I probably pronounced it wrong. Tracheostomy, I think it's pronounced.
No, you would know better than me. I just, but the trach, it's when they cut the hole,
Yeah. They call them or is it laryngostomy? Because they call them Larrys is the nickname for anyone that's had the operation. You're a Larry, and I didn't want to be a Larry, mate. I was I'm too young, fit, and healthy to be a Larry, in my own personal opinion.
It sounds like what you're saying is there was all the grief about the possibility of having that, permanent alteration of how you speak. And instead of just being with the grief, you just sidestepped it and went to the anger. And I mean, hell, man,
either master with either anger or just trying to be proactive. And I did a whole bunch of really awesome proactive things with my cancer journey. I didn't kind of just roll with it and let it happen. I'm involved in a lot of Facebook groups and stuff, and you get people jumping on and they're like, oh, I have no idea. What do I do? And you see the comments and they're kind of like half-hearted responses about, a bunch of different tips of take this and that. And I don't know. You really got to go do your own research, not just like rely on other people's half-baked answers. I found there was so much really good knowledge out there. You have to go looking for it. Yeah, and I did as much proactive stuff as I could and kind of had to let go of what I couldn't. So, a few different things that happened in my treatment on the Western side of medicine, and then a few different things on the more alternative side that I partook in.
Well, I'm curious about the proactive part, but before we get into that, I wanted to say, so they give you the biopsy, they tell you that you have, I'm going to try to say it, laryngeal cancer?
Yeah, something like that.
Did I say it right?
It's either laryngeal or laryngeal.
Laryngeal. All right. So
laryngeal. I don't know.
Yeah,
I haven't and I don't even know how to say it.
When I got diagnosed with rectal cancer, I didn't even know what my rectum was. I would make a joke. When I was younger, I'd be like, rectum damn near killed him. But I knew it had something to do with somewhere, it's the southern side of the body, but I had no idea, man.
Somewhere down south, yeah.
Exactly. So they give you the biopsy, and then what did they say? What was next?
They basically gave me the worst possible scenario, but they said it probably won't amount to that. Here's what we usually do. I bet, actually, no, first there. So it was the ENT, so the ear, nose, throat specialist who did the biopsy. Like she said, our results should be in about a week's time or so. So we're like, okay, cool. And then the next day she was like, you need to come into my office. We've already got the results. And it's like a bit of an alarm bell.
Yeah.
I said, yeah, it's cancer. So this is out of my hands. I'm going to pass you on to a team of oncologists in Australia. We're pretty lucky, and where I'm at, Sydney, Royal North Shore Hospital actually has, I forget the name of them, but there's actually like a board of about 25 oncologists, and they have a meeting once a month and take on about 10 new patients. And that was like 2 days after my diagnosis. So I get told to go to this meeting. I go to the cancer ward in the hospital. I'm surrounded by people that don't look anything like me. There's people hobbling around on one leg and people dealing with, I don't know, some kind of brain cancers and stuff that couldn't, control their face properly. And I was just like, fuck, I felt so scared at that stage. But I had like all of my close family and friends, like my mother, my partner, my best friend, insist on coming. And then I also had like another family relative fly all the way down from fucking Gold Coast or Melbourne or something, and from Adelaide, sorry, to beat. So I had like 6 people coming with me. I felt like this army of friends and family kind of rocking up, and so because they were around though, I once again just didn't just had to be like, oh, this is sweet, whatever. But in my head I was like, fuck, this is just fucking so scary. Anyway, so get into the room.
If I could chime in for 1 second, I mean, it sounds like you're like, what am I doing with these people? Like,
yeah, it was just so obscure. Like, I was in great shape at the time. This is pre knowing anything was wrong with me. I'm rocking up, like, literally feeling the best I've ever felt. Like, I had a croaky voice, yeah, but apart from that, I was, physically doing well. And like I said, I just felt super out of place. And I was kind of like instantly like, is this how sick I am? Like,
there you go. Yeah. It's like,
you
is this how sick I am? I mean, it sounds so rude when I say this, but what I thought to myself is like, am I one of these people? Like, tell me I'm not one of these people. And then I realized these people isn't real. It was just my imagination, but it scared the hell out of me, man.
Yeah, no, I very much hear what you're saying there.
Yeah, you get it. Yeah. So y'all walked in. There you are.
Yeah, I walked in. So for a laryngeal problem, instead of cutting you open or anything, they could actually just look at it with a little camera. So everyone's complaining about this coronavirus test where they do a little swab and they say they're poking into your brain. Mine was about 4 times longer, and just this huge stethoscope that goes up through your nose and down through the back of your throat. And this little light and camera that looks at your voice box, and they kind of like get you to lean back and they're like and do whatever. I'm much better at saying these days, but I couldn't even make the sound back then. Anyway, they looked at it. There's a speaker at the front going, this is Jake. He's 27 years old. He's generally very healthy. He has this cancer. Let's all have a look at it together. And the 25 oncologists are sitting there kind of taking notes, and walk back out. You don't spend long in there, and walk back out and sit back in the waiting room with all these people for a good 2 hours, just waiting. And then the group chooses one oncologist to kind of take you on board. My guy came in, took me into his room, and he said, here's your options. We can give you radiation treatment, or we can operate. Chemotherapy is not really an option for your particular cancer. It's not going to work, frankly, which I'm really personally glad for, because I hear about how challenging that is. He said, basically, if you get radiotherapy, it's going to be much more gentle on your throat, but it's radiotherapy. There are also potential side effects. We're all listening to the Seriously Cancer podcast. We all know what radiotherapy does and what potential damage it might have on the body, and potential of causing future cancers, some people might say. And yeah, being in the area next, all my glands were fine. My glands in my throat were all going to get a little bit zapped. There's no avoiding zapping the esophagus. Your teeth might rot and fall out. Your mouth might fill up with ulcers. All these kind of scary things. Or I can just simply cut the bastard out, and you'll have a faster recovery time, but your voice will probably be a little bit more damaged, frankly, from the operation rather than the radiotherapy. Your voice box directly, because it's like a skin. If you had skin cancer, they don't just gently cut off the skin cancer. They'll get an ice cream scoop worth right underneath it, and really take the roots of it and everything out, or I don't know. And so that's what they do to your voice box. It's not surgically removed. It's with lasers. Star Wars kind of stuff, I think. Yeah, so I opted for an operation surgically to remove the tumors. And that was booked in for 2 weeks later also. Did the first operation, and yeah, that was pretty hardcore. I woke up in not too much pain because of all the medication I was on, but then, yeah, the day or two later, it hurt like buggery, and I wasn't allowed to talk for, I think, like a week or so. I wasn't even allowed to make any. I actually got an application on my phone where I'd type out and then it would like play it back in like a robotic voice. And then I was like, oh, if I pay $2 extra, I can get like all these different styles of voices and stuff. So I did that and had some funny voices for a week. And yeah, that was that. And yeah, I was told that the operation was a success and the cancer was all gone. Go and live your life, kid. Fantastic. At that stage, COVID kind of ran its course at its worst through Sydney, Australia, and all the gyms and stuff went into lockdown. So as horrible as COVID is, it was really good timing for me because I was essentially not able to, use my voice properly. And it was kind of hard to get out of work hard because, by week 3 or 4, I could kind of talk.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, with COVID, shut the gyms down for 6 months. So that was kind of good timing for me. So everyone else had to stop working, and I felt like less of a piece of shit that couldn't work. Because, yeah, I've always hustled and worked my butt off, my money, and been a real move forward, goal-focused. And, yeah, when the cancer came, that all kind of, it puts your life on pause. And I was on a good roll, So, yeah, it really sucked. As you are aware, it sucks when you're diagnosed and then you have to go through the recovery process. And it's like you can't really do much else. And, I couldn't really be creative with much because I couldn't, talk properly and I wasn't meant to train. And anyway, I was fine. I'm whinging a bit.
Well, that's a lot though, man. It's when I got both times
combine it with a spinal fusion and stuff where I still like stiff and sore neck and back. And yeah, it was just like, yeah, it was pretty hard.
You got hit with a lot.
Yeah,
you got hit with a lot, man. I mean, you did.
Yeah,
and it
sucked.
Yeah, it sucks. And
it's okay to say it sucks. Like, I think I have had trouble to admit that it was hard. It was fucking hard. Even though I knew the cancer wasn't life-threatening, or so I was told, and so I continued to be told, like, yeah, I was still fearful of that old tracheostomy, the whole like so much anxiety about it. So just to continue my story, so like we can operate, and if we operate, should be sweet. If the operation fails and it grows back, we can do radiotherapy. After the radiation, if the radiation doesn't kill it, then you have no option but to do the tracheostomy. So, yeah, after the initial operation, and they told me it was fine, I kind of jumped back into life as soon as possible, just doing normal life things and training and moving and just, I don't know, like trying to just pretend like it wasn't a problem. And then, it was about 6 months after, because they do have you in for routine checkups. They're like, oh, it looks a bit funny. Come back in 2 weeks instead of, a month. And went back in and he said, sorry, kid, you still have cancer. I'm like, you're fucking kidding. Like, so, you completely, I had another biopsy actually. He's like, it looks a bit funny. Let's do another biopsy on it again. It might just be scar tissue, but it might also not. And it was positive for cancer again. So, I just kind of felt like I'd gotten over it. And then I got it again. And then it's like, right, phase 2, radiotherapy. I'm like, wait, hold on. We are going way too quickly down this path towards this laryngectomy, tracheostomy, whatever it's called, for my liking, and I haven't really, I've heard a lot, like I personally eat mainly a plant-based diet, and I have a lot of very healthy people that follow me on my social medias and were sending me resources this whole way through, like, you should try this, you should do that. You get 1,000 different bits of advice and things to do.
Yep.
And I was taking a little bit of it on board, but not much. There's a documentary called The Truth About Cancer. I'm not sure who does that. It's called The Truth About Cancer, and it's very, very informative, but it's also very, very anti-Western approach. Like, like super, super against it. And I had a lot of voices in this kind of alternative space being like, the Western side of cancer treatment is so wrong, the body can heal naturally. And when I got the news of the cancer had gone back, I was kind of like, yeah, you know what? Like, screw Western medicine. I'm going to beat this shit on my own. And just my partner set up a GoFundMe account to help raise funds to cover some of the costs, because none of anything other than the Western medicine side of things is covered. Yeah, I was very blessed. I didn't realize how many people actually give a shit about me, and I had made some money into that account. Within a few months, there was about 10 grand. But it all went very quickly because all that alternative stuff's very expensive. Like vitamin C infusions are like $300-400 a pop, and they're like, do like 4 of they like do basically every day for a week and then stop for 2 weeks. And then so I did all that, put filtration systems in all the water. So I was, avoiding fluoride and gargling certain things and taking all these herbs, and I just smashed through $10,000 faster than I had ever done in my life. And about 2 months had passed, and it kind of seemed to put it on hold. I even did like I tried for the goal was 2 weeks of water only fasting, which is not to be tried by anyone. I'm not suggesting anyone with cancer go out and jump into a water fast just because you heard me say it. But I did to end kind of my alternative therapy approach. I did a big fruit fast, so I ate nothing but fruit for a week, and then I drank nothing but freshly squeezed organic fruit juice for 2 weeks, and then I drank nothing but filtered water for a whole week, and I lost a ton of weight. I dropped down to, my natural weight is about 98-ish kilos. I'm 6'5", I'm pretty tall, so, and I dropped down to like 84 kilos. I think I got at my lightest. And that was in the space of, under a month. Like, that's a crazy amount of weight to lose. And I felt super healthy. I felt great. And I think I set my body up to handle the next treatment better. You basically kind of give your body a big old reboot and help it be able to regenerate its own cells much more efficiently. And it discards of all of the waste product in your body that is sitting around not doing anything positive, taking up energy, just being there. It's a reset, essentially. A detox, you detox through pooping, sweating, breathing, and what's the fourth one?
Probably urinating.
Urinating, wing, that's it, urinating. Yeah, it was really interesting. Usually when you pee, you're told it's meant to be clear and not, dark and whatever. But when you're doing a water fast, it actually starts to come out really murky. And it's all of the crap coming out of your liver, and you can see I would pee into a jar and let it sit and observe it like an hour later, and you would see all of this sediment, all this wastage coming out of your urine, which was amazing, because my pee was always clear. And I was connected with the guy that helped me through this whole fasting process, and he was talking me through how that's normal. And it's amazing because the liver's there to filter, essentially. That's what it does. It filters. All of this stuff was coming out of my body. It was really good. But in the end, I still had cancer. So it was time to do radio. And so...
if I could chime in for 1 sec.
I did radio.
I want to know about that, but I can relate to the detox therapy, because when I got diagnosed the first time, they told me I was going to have a colostomy. Now I've got one now, and it's permanent, and it doesn't really faze me. But back then, the only person I knew was someone who would like pass gas and stink up the room real bad. You know what I mean? And I'm like, I don't want to shit into a bag, dude. Like, no way. So my wife and I, she's the one who did all the research. And I did something called Gerson therapy for 10 months. And I got quarterly scans. I had blood work every month. So I wasn't just going to go into it blindly. But I wanted to detoxify my body so that my body could fight the cancer.
Awesome.
And like, it's called Gerson therapy now.
I've heard of Gerson therapy.
Yeah,
it's more or less a diet, is it?
It's a diet and a lot of juicing.
Yep.
Yeah, it's
awesome.
Yep. And
great. Lots of grapes and stuff.
There's lots of fruit, yeah, but it's like
Yeah.
you're eating like it's a lot of carrot juice and a lot of green juice, and then a very
Yeah.
simple diet with all the fresh fruit you can eat mostly.
Is it meat free?
Yes,
Yeah, good.
you substitute salt with potassium and
Amazing.
maybe iodine. You know, it was really great. And if you don't have cancer, let's say you just want to detoxify your body and you're doing Gerson therapy, people say wonderful, heal your body, cleanse your body,
Yeah.
detox your body.
Yeah.
But when you have cancer and you use a detox treatment, people are like, all right, you're crazy. You
Yeah.
lost your
It's
mind.
like, yeah.
But I was being monitored the whole time. After 10 months, I couldn't do it anymore because the cancer was just growing into a nerve and the pain was just beyond. I
Yeah.
couldn't, and I was already on morphine. But my point is, I wasn't able to do the treatment to rid myself of cancer. However, my body had been detoxed big time. And
Mm.
when I went in preparation for surgery, they did 5.5 weeks of chemo and radiation. And my oncologist told me when he looked at the pathology, there wasn't a single living cell of cancer in the tumor. And prior to that, he hadn't seen
Wow.
that before. He'd always seen a certain amount of cancer still alive. But what happened? I did the detox, and the tumor was so weak at that point that when I had chemo and radiation, man, it just crushed it. It was
Yeah.
like, they don't have anything to weigh it against, so they just give you the regular treatment, and it crushed the cancer. Like you said, I prepped my body for the treatment. It sounds like
Fantastic, Bert. I didn't know that about you, and that's. I'm not in the health space of talking about cancer much,
Mhm.
but I think it's something that's, you've got these two opposing sides, and they don't need to oppose each other. They can, like, once the cancer's at a point, like you just said, it's hitting a nerve or it's in an artery somewhere and it's life threatening, and it's man, go that Western route and get the thing cut, burnt, whatever. But if it's not at that stage yet, do as much as you can to reset your body and get your body back on your side to help fight it. And it might fight it by itself, it might not, and you might have to go get surgery or radio or chemo. But even if you do, your body's going to be in a much better place to handle it all. Yeah. And if you're, overweight, unhealthy, unfit, not eating well, and then you go and get chemo and other poison chucked into your body, that's not good. And
right,
that's how I saw it. So,
if you can clean yourself up before you go poison yourself,
yeah,
that's a great thing to do. Like,
yeah,
I shoveled a whole bunch of the shit out before I put a whole bunch more in, so it
yeah,
wasn't twice as full. Yeah,
yeah.
so I just wanted you to know, like, I can really relate to that. And
Good on you, man. Because like I said, I'm still involved in some of these groups on Facebook, and it's just like, it's people just detox, just care for your body, just get yourself cleaned up and go and do your treatment. Like, it's pretty simple.
you did a fruit fast, then a juice fast, then a water fast, and your body's just like dumping out all these toxins, and you can see it in your urine.
Yeah, and I did ask my oncologist, said it's time to do radiotherapy, and I said, well, screw you. Can I please have a couple of months to just try and do this myself, my own way for a little bit? Got right into it. First month, he was still reviewing me. First month came back, he said, oh, it doesn't actually look like your cancer's growing as aggressively. Whatever you're doing, keep it up. And he gave me another month to continue on my alternative therapy. And then he said on the second visit, it still looks about the same. I think it's time you just do radiotherapy. I could have pushed it back further, but I just wanted to get back to life, back to my job, back to my normal existence. So I said, fine, let's just do the damn thing. And went forward with radiotherapy for my laryngeal cancer. Now, radiotherapy, it was really, really shitty because it hit a lot of areas other than the cancer itself, mainly being my esophagus. Now, they usually give people a feeding tube if it gets bad enough. Mine kind of did get bad enough, but I didn't get a feeding tube anyway. I'm not sure why I didn't, because, Yeah, it was kind of about week 2. So I had the face mask, and I had, the big machine revolves around you and it zaps. It tries its very best to target the only very specific spot. However, it can't help but get other things as well. The reason it zaps you from the side is so that it doesn't go straight through and zap your spinal cord, because then it would literally leave you.
Damn.
It would fuck you up, if radiation hit your spinal cord. So yeah, it makes sure it avoids that. But yeah, it hit my esophagus and everything. So at about week 2, my skin got really red, and then week 3, it kind of, started to really, really. I didn't realize I was eating a banana one day. I was swallowing a banana. Oh, fuck, that hurt. Like, let's go with that. I thought, maybe drinking a glass of Coca-Cola or something really acidic would hurt, but a banana, like, surely that's not that acidic. And he's like, yeah, it's going to get worse, mate. And yeah, from about week 3 to treatment finished, I only did 5 weeks of radio, but from the day it started, week 2 to 3, it started hurting. And then it wasn't until like week 10 that it stopped being pretty much the most uncomfortable few weeks of my life. I would wake up and just be in excruciating pain, and all my glands, like I said earlier, were didn't know what they were doing basically, and I was just drooling constant saliva, and I couldn't swallow it because swallowing was just so incredibly painful. I could not swallow anything really. I went from this health junkie guru to pretty much living on ice cubes and 2-minute noodles for about 2 months. And yeah, I'm plant-based as well. I try to eat really bugger all meat. It's just my personal preference. There's a few reasons why, but I won't go into that. But anything like fruit or anything would just kill. So like I found like all I could eat was like raw egg. I had like egg flips, noodles, and if I was really game, like some cold shaved turkey or something. But even that, like the tiniest bit of salt would just like, it's like if you had a big graze on your arm and you rubbed turkey straight onto your arm, it really, really burnt. And everyone was kind of judging like how sore I might be from like the exterior scab that had formed around. You can see how perfectly shaved my beard is.
Yeah.
I've actually not shaved it. It just doesn't grow there anymore.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so I'm actually really lucky. I've got a perfect beard line forever. I don't think it grows back.
A little free laser treatment.
Yeah, totally. But back to complaining.
Right. Yeah.
No. It was it was really head and neck cancers are especially challenging. I believe from what I've seen on a lot of these groups, they really take a toll. It's like right in, it's like when things are close to your face, it really gets to your head, So yeah, not being able to swallow and breathe, and then I would wake up. And then I ended up getting a chest infection as well. They should have had me on because my immune system would have been way down because my diet was so shit, and I was battling this cancer and this trying to regenerate all these damaged cells. I ended up with a big chest infection, so I would be kind of coughing up green gunk, and then chunks of skin were coming with it, and then I'd just be drooling. And yeah, I just lived on a diet of 2-minute noodles and painkillers.
Wow, man. So it had to hurt coming up too.
Like coughing was the worst thing I could possibly do. But then I got a tickly coffee throat, and it was like trying to hold a cough in and then like drooling and like, it's just a mess. It was,
Wow.
I ended up for comedic value just calling myself the local grumpy swamp monster and getting on with it. And I would literally wake up in the morning, and because I was on so many other like drugs and painkillers and fuck knows whatever else, I would just wake up in a pool of sweat and a pool of green gunky vomit. Like my face was like resting in a pool of green salivary gunk, and I'd usually wake up about 5+ times a night, because if I rolled over, I'd probably had a mouthful of saliva, and I'd just breathe it in and then choke on it and then cough and explode it up, and I'd like cough and sit straight upright, and and it would just fucking hurt, and then I'd run off to the bathroom and just be sick. And it was just a shitty few weeks, to be honest, but it's all over now, and the radiation seems to have done its job. They waited a month or two before the follow-up, and yeah, the follow-up, I was declared, he's like, oh, it looks like the cancer's all gone, I'm going to go ahead and say you're in remission. So good news, but I've heard it before and I'm still worried about it coming back. Like the first time, so I had all this, yay, congratulations from the people around me. But inside, I'm still like, that's what they said after the operation. And this is exactly the same thing I'm hearing again. And I think it's just going to take a little bit of time before I'm able to really put that worried box away somewhere dark and somewhere that I can't see it, and just, sweep it under the rug, so to speak, and stop worrying about it coming back. But at the moment, I'll have days where my voice feels kind of worse again, and I'm like, fuck, it feels like it's going back. And
yeah, of course.
yeah,
Man.
it's just a constant dread of, yeah. So I'm working through that. But yeah, I guess that's something that everyone that's had cancer can relate to, is that you just don't know if it's going to come back, and you feel quite fragile. I feel fragile. And that's like, not me. It feels very uncohesive with the rest of my interior and exterior personality, like it doesn't feel right to be on like the nice edge. It's like a wolf lurking behind me, like waiting to strike, when I'm, yeah. So I've got a lot of anxiety behind like regrowing a business and, getting myself back out in there into the world, because I'm scared that as soon as I do, like something bad's going to happen. Like I had, before the bike accident, I had a big knee problem, and then I had the bike accident, and then I had cancer, and it's just like one fucking thing after the other. And
right.
Yeah, so I'm just like, fuck, like, what do you got for me next, universe? But I think
man.
it's it is what it is, and we can either allow these events to kind of mold us into, people that are hopeless and don't see the point in anything anymore, or we can let it, fuel and be the oxygen to the fire of some beautiful shit moving forward, which, I hope to be on the other side of the coin, and making something really positive of some of these negative experiences that I've had. And been stepping into the mental health space a little bit, and I'm speaking at some things soon, and I'm achieving stuff at the moment. I've got some new sponsors on board with doing some stuff for my training, and, trying to just do it, but
well, you're walking the tightrope, man.
Yeah, something like that.
You want to create, what I'm hearing you say is you want to create and give to the world and create your business and let your passion start flowing again. And a part of you is like, yeah, but like, how much do I want to put into this? This thing's just going to come back and I'm going to get back into it again. And at the same time, I can also, it sounds like you also, at the same time, don't want to be just treading water.
So I don't.
Catch-22 of like, I don't want to go all in, but I sure as hell don't want to stay where I am.
Yeah. So it's a very, very odd position to be in. It's very strange. So I'll work it out. Time heals. I found, everyone's looking for the magic cure and the magic answer, but I tell people to just go with the flow, try and take control of the little things that you can each day and be proactive to the amount that feels right for you. If I did every little bit of advice of things that I could have taken on board to fight the cancer, like I don't have the mental capacity, time, energy, money to do so. So, you pick and choose what you can do and what you can control. And I think that feeling of control is important. I think cancer kind of rips that away from you very aggressively, and you're taking a little bit of ownership and responsibility. And this applies to everything, not just cancer. And, doing as much as you can control and add to, your healing or your contribution to the world or whatever it is. And if you can't contribute or you can't, make the tumor disappear yourself, then, let it go or pass that job on to someone else. Or so I think, fuck, mate, cancer's made me pretty wise beyond my years, to be honest.
Absolutely, I can hear it, man. And you mentioned earlier like feeling fragile, and it was just earlier today I was thinking about human fragility, because right now in the US there's a massive cold snap that went way down south, and like these states in the southern part of the country, they don't deal with, cold weather and snow like we do. And right now, like
Yeah.
in Texas, the power grid can't handle dealing with the cold right now.
Yeah, it's on the news here in Australia how cold it is.
It's brutal, man. And like it had me think about how fragile we are as human beings. And we live in a quote modern world where our fragility is managed. We don't have to pay attention to it. We don't have to even live inside of our own fragility until you dump your bike and break your neck, or until you get diagnosed with cancer. And then all of a sudden, like I saw the video you posted of you trying to, I don't know if you're eating or I think you're drinking something. And it was like brutal to watch it, man. And I so appreciate you posting it, because it's like people wonder what's it like, and nobody wants to ask. Like I get to ask all these questions of you on this podcast, right? And I've had people, listeners say to me, like, I always wanted to ask that person that question, but there's no way I was going to. And it's like you brought to people some of the things they're wondering about. And it was like, damn, that is hard to watch you trying to swallow something. You just fighting. Like, I mean, it was like nothing what you were drinking. We are fragile creatures. And like you said earlier, back when we were living in caves and running around with spears, like our fragility was very apparent. And we get to live under the illusion that we're not fragile creatures. And we really test it when we go fast in cars or fast on motorcycles or mountain climb or, whatever it is that we can do now. And every once in a while, we got our ass handed to us, and the universe says, "Yeah, you're fragile."
Yeah,
and
totally.
It's such a wake up call. The illusion gets shattered. All kinds of illusions get shattered when you get diagnosed with cancer. The illusion of our, for men, our masculinity and perhaps our relationship to our bodies. The illusion of immortality that we live with. And I don't want to.
You think it's so easily going to be that 90-year, 100-year, 80-year stretch, and
right,
maybe fucking not. You might not get the next day.
Yeah. So like, what am I doing here? What do I want to do? Because wow, it's I'm with you, man. It's like the first time I had cancer, once it was gone, I'm like, I'm good. I know it's not coming back. I'm healthy. I'm moving on. And 2.5 years later, it came back and it was stage 4 metastasized to my liver. And I hung up the phone and I said, oh my God, I'm going to die. And that was 9.5 years ago. But that shattered this illusion of immortality. I realized like tomorrow's promised to no one. It's that balance of I want to live my life fully. And at the same time, I get some weird feeling in my body. I get a weird sensation in a part of my body I'm not familiar with, some discomfort or pain there. And I'm like, oh shit, the cancer's back.
Yeah.
I get an extended cough. The cancer's back. My leg hurts. My ankle hurts for more than 3 days. I'm like, oh, I got bone cancer. And now I manage that. I've been in this for a long time now, since 2007. And I've gotten a little more acquainted with that part of the mind that just loves to just blow it up. You know what I mean? I'm like, all right, you again. You had me for like 3 minutes, you son of a bitch, or maybe half the day. But now I'm like, I'm not hanging with you. Like, go somewhere else and do your thing. And I'm curious, like, how have you found yourself managing that thinking, those thoughts of like, mortality being limited, or having, your throat start bothering you and you're like, oh God, it's back. And then it's not. It's like, I'm just curious what you bring to that aspect of the experience.
Good question.
Or just what you found.
Yeah, well, I'm still finding it out. It's only been a month since I got some good news. It's just been bad news up until that point,
So when did radiation end? About
Christmas time, my throat still hurt, and I was spent all day Christmas pretty much just in pain crying. So that was the back end of December. Yeah, I was not having a great time, but I think it was finished kind of a week or so before Christmas. And we're in to the people of the future, 18th of February.
So it's been about, it's been almost a couple months.
Yeah, it's been almost a couple of months since radio finished, and about a month and a half since I got a good note from the doctor. So yeah, my feeling of going back to your question, how do I deal with that internal dialogue? I hate that little fucking voice so much,
Yeah.
but it is also there for a reason. It's there to protect us, and it's about kind of, I think respecting it enough to, allow it to have its say. And, if you feel like it's something's really wrong and genuine, and going and getting checked. But yeah, having it there constantly is a bastard of a thing, but it's not there constantly for me, but it kind of is. I don't know, mate. It's still all fresh wounds for me. They're still very raw and open. I don't yet feel safe. I don't feel safe yet. So I still have that voice is still very much alive. He's not kind of, I don't get to kind of push him away just yet. He's sitting with me still. So
sitting with you for sure. That makes perfect sense. That's a great answer, because that I mean, not it's a great answer, but I may say
it's the truth.
Yeah, it's the truth. And
it's the truth. There's not always a happy ending to these stories, and mine's not yet reached that point. I haven't smashed cancer and made something of myself just yet. I'm still going through it. I'm still down in that ditch. Even though I've been declared in remission, yeah, I don't mentally. I'm still sick. Yeah. I'm still scared. I'm still sick. I'm still anxious. I'm still battling depression. I think that voice has definitely subsided a lot. I do take antidepressants, which has been brought my depression probably started years ago, but it's definitely been exacerbated by my cancer. So yeah, I've finally taken some Western style antidepressants, and I think that helps to quieten those voices a little bit for me. I had some really fucking dark days during my treatment, which I opened up about for a hot minute, and I chose to / partner and mother were like, go back to your fucking therapist, kid, and start taking your bloody antidepressants again.
Yeah.
And they are a band-aid, sure. The band-aids were invented for a reason. You graze your knee and you got to put something on it so the germs don't get in and make it worse. So it's kind of similar with your mental health. And yeah, I grazed mine pretty bad with this cancer. And so I'm on some antidepressants to help manage those darker moments that, don't need to be there. I don't need to deal with that shit right now while I'm dealing with recovering.
I'll tell you, man, that really resonates with me. After the second time once I was cancer free, and they said, okay, your treatment's over, congratulations. And I'm like, oh, right. Now I got to deal with the fact that my wife left me. And like, I need to go back to work, and I got my kid half the week, and I'm a single father. How the hell am I supposed to do this? I didn't sign up to do this by myself. And I got really depressed, and I finally went to my doc. I'm like, look, I need something. Like I can't do this.
It's just constant.
Yep. Yeah. And when she put me on Prozac, and it took the volume of that voice that was just negative, would not shut up, and it turned the volume from a 10 to a 2.
Yeah, good.
And I could just be again. It was like the fucking thing would not leave me alone. Like I'd see a cow in a field and I'd be jealous.
Yeah.
It was so fucking with me that like I took it, and it turned the volume down, and it was the Band-Aid I needed for a while. A positive note, I can only drink like 1 cup of coffee a day. When I was on Prozac, I could have like 5 cups of coffee a day. It wasn't good for me, but it was so delicious. Otherwise, those stuff gives me the jitters. I can't handle it. So that's like my one bonus of Prozac, because I got to drink extra coffee.
Wow. But I take pre-workout supplements, which is just like 5 cups of coffee in one. So
is that right?
Yeah, it's pretty gnarly stuff.
No, silliness aside, though, no, man, it turned the voice down. You got to get a break from that voice.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I wanted to ask you about working out, because that's one of the things I noticed. Like I watched I follow your feed, and I watched how, you were trying to drink things, and I saw the scar tissue on your neck. It's like, damn, this dude is going through it, man. It's like your neck got a double whammy. You already broke it once, and now you get hitting it from the outside and on the voice box. And then I remember you were posting, you're like, I'm working out again. Like, this feels so good. And I want to preface this with, like, my working out in life is short stints. I really get into it and then I lose interest. Then I get into it, then I lose interest. I never, it was never much something I stuck to. Now that I'm going to be 51 in April, and now I'm like, I'm doing body weight work. I'm doing like push-ups every day, and I'm doing pull-ups. I realize, like, there's a fork in the road now. And if I don't at least do some kind of, resistance training, like, I'm gonna be regretting it. But it's really totally inspiring, man. Like, watching you get, how do I want to say this? I don't want to put you up on some pedestal that then doesn't allow you the space to be a human being, and like, this is hard. But I do want to acknowledge, like, it inspired me to see it's dangerous to tell someone they're an inspiration, because then they want to stay that and they don't want to be human. But I do want to say, like, it really inspired me, man, that you've gotten back into it.
Wow. Fuck. Literally, thank you, firstly. That's awesome of you to say. Yeah, wow. I think, sorry, that just hit me really hard, because all I ever have been told is that you're inspiring. You've been dealt these shit hands your whole life, and you've, like, even through my teens was pretty rough, and my early 20s was a bit of fun, and then some rough stuff happened, and had to change careers. And yeah, I've just always been fucking doing good stuff, and friends and family and loved ones have always been like, you are so inspiring. And so I started kind of sharing some of my shit on social media a bit, and then it just became like my business tool. My Instagram became, just my essentially landing page, I suppose, for my personal training. And then, one day when I got hit by the car, I just, was filming myself in the back of the car, and no worries. And just another day, and then it ended up being what it was, really bad. And I kind of documented the whole process. And then I kind of lost that identity of being a personal trainer as things went on. And people just kept, telling me I'm inspiring, and I'm just literally documenting shit that's going on. And it has put so much pressure on me to be inspiring, being told it so many times. And what you just said then was fucking awesome. It kind of takes that away, that ability to be human away from us when we're told it too often. Yeah, I really liked how you were so gentle with giving me that compliment. That was that's something most people don't bother to do. I haven't even thought about it that way, to be honest. Yeah, I don't know. That just hit me really hard. But thank you. Going back to fitness and whatever, I suppose I was a really fat kid. And when I got to high school, I started being interested in girls and stuff. So I started surfing and going to the gym a little bit after that. And then I had this knee condition where I'm a chef. I was a chef by trade, first thing out of school, and then just long hours on my feet and being a bit overweight. My knees just, I have a condition called osteochondritis desicans, and the tip of my femur just basically has got arthritis in it. So I needed that operated on a couple of times. And that's what steered me towards fitness. And and I guess I just loved it. I got a little, there's parts of it that are shallow. I like, I want to look good naked and feel strong and, all those physical aspects of it. But then the mental side of things, of the way it just makes your brain pump out positive endorphins. It's crazy. Like, when you start to get a rhythm of training and working out what works for you, and getting physically stronger and start lifting up bigger weights than you used to be able to, and the feeling is just unmatched by any antidepressant or any mate, I've tried all the drugs, and the feeling that you get of a good workout is pretty hard to beat, and it's obviously good for you. So I don't know, it's something I'm kind of addicted to myself. And so that's why I've ended up going down the road of personal trainer, and that's been cool. but I think it's at its end. But yeah, through cancer, it was one thing I could kind of do, not to my fullest potential, but it was my throat and swallowing that hurt. It wasn't my legs, my arms, and my torso. They were fine. They were good to go. So yeah, I ended up getting right back into the gym during radiotherapy. It was not stopping me at all. And the video you're referring to, I remember that day I was just covered in Bepanthen and just dripping down my neck with sweat and stuff. And I was just deadlifting and squatting. And I remember, I was like, that was the stage where I was really struggling to swallow. And I was like, is having a sip of water, and I literally couldn't even drink a sip of water. And then just go and, pick 100 kilos off the floor 5 times. And it felt great. I found out in the end, if anyone's listening that's got head and neck cancers in future, my one biggest tip is chewing on ice was downright the best thing I could do. It enabled me to get hydrated. It would slide down a lot easier than water. And I guess the coldness of it had some anti-inflammatory kind of properties. So yeah, I ended up just walking around the gym with crushed ice and just not giving a single fuck, just getting on with it. And
nice.
Yeah, people looked at me like, what the hell is this guy doing? Look at how sick he is. And I just didn't care. I just did it anyway.
Sounds like the
mask was on.
Yeah, but also it does sound like the benefit far outweighed the cost. You're like, yeah,
there was no cost. There was no cost. It was just uncomfortable, and I just pushed through. There was no cost.
And
I might have been told probably not to do it by a couple of people, but those people were, kind of pretty fucking overweight oncologists that I just didn't really respect in their ideas of what fitness meant, and I did it anyway. So they're like, you're looking really good. I'm like, thanks, mate. Wish I could say the same about you. But no, I didn't say that.
But you're also talking about your mental health. And if we don't manage our mental health when we're going through cancer and going through our treatment and then going through recovery, we don't manage our mental health. Like, okay, so you got great physical health, but you're like, how do I manage my mental health? I'm working out. And it's the greatest feeling I can bring to myself. And if I don't have this, then what's going to happen to me? I'm going to get depressed and start eating like shit.
Yeah.
And not take care of myself.
It's a bad loop. And I like the gym personally. That's what I'm into. I do a lot of body weight stuff as well. I used to be much more into that. But if it's just a walk, that's awesome. If it's like doing Pilates or something, that's it doesn't matter. You should find some way of moving your body around. And there's absolutely no excuse either. You can literally so easily just jump on YouTube and Google Pilates class for beginner, and it'll have you do it's easy as, there's no excuses not to keep your body moving through cancer, unless you've obviously got something in one of your limbs that stops one of your limbs working. But then I'm sure you've got 3 others, I don't know.
Yeah,
be gentle with yourself.
I couldn't. I physically, I was so sick from chemo.
You're different. Yeah, I guess there's that side of the coin
but
as well.
What you're saying
when you're
is
really going through it, yeah.
But what you're saying is when you have the physical ability and it's just your mind telling you no, go do it.
Yes.
I'm at that point now, like I told you, I have to start taking care of my body, because otherwise it's going to stop providing me what's come naturally, which is just my health and my fit body. So say I'm not really big into movies so much. And now actually with COVID, I've kind of become a little more of a movie person. Let's say I'm watching something on YouTube, or I'm listening to someone talk. I'll take a bungee cord and put the laptop on the exercise bike and sit there and pedal. My son and I finished dinner, and we sat down to watch one of those Marvel movies? I think it's Marvel. The Marvel movie, Captain America.
Awesome.
And
love Marvel.
Yeah, he's on the couch and I'm on the exercise bike watching the movie till I'm sweating my brains out watching this movie, because
that's so awesome, man.
It's easy to do. And and if you see me, I'm not a big guy, I'm not muscular,
you look in shape though, for sure.
I'm healthy, and I want my body to stay that way. And I want my body to stay that way. And it's simple, and it's amazing how difficult it can be.
It's difficult when you're not kind of already there and it can seem unachievable. But yeah, I was a personal trainer for like 4 years and I've seen some amazing transformations with people just starting off real slow, get yourself, people say 10,000 steps a day is the minimum. And it's like, mate, that's really hard for some people. So just get moving. Even like breath work is really important. Waking up early and doing box breathing, I find gets you in the rhythm. And then
What's that?
yeah, box breathing is breathing in for a count of 4, holding for 4 seconds at the top, breathing out for 4 seconds, having no air in your lungs for 4 seconds, repeating until you kind of feel centered.
All right.
Okay.
I'll give that a try. First thing I do when I wake up is I drink like 20 ounces of water.
Whiskey.
Whiskey. I drink whiskey so I wake up. No, I
First
drink 20 ounces of water, and then I have a 16-ounce cup of tea that I work on after that. But just like that, just so.
Yeah, you got to get the water in.
Yeah, it just changes everything. I can move and I can think, and and then I'll meditate. But I'll try the box breathing and I'll see how
box
that
breathing.
works.
If you just kind of, I'll do it anytime I'm stressing out.
Yeah.
Even if you're still like in mid argument with my missus or something, I'll just like kind of start box breathing while we're arguing. We don't argue much, but yeah.
All right, cool, man. Yeah, it's I remember I read a autobiography by Willie Nelson. He was saying how he takes like 20 deep breaths when he first wakes up. But I used to try that, but I would like space out by like breath 12 or 13 and just like I never made it to 20.
Mate, it's so much fresh oxygen for your brain. And I do some of the Wim Hof thing as well, but
what's that?
Whatever. You haven't heard of Wim Hof, mate? Everyone in the face of the earth's heard of him. He's the bloke that can swim under bloody icy cold water.
Oh,
for like
that
5
guy.
minutes.
All right, yeah. I've heard of him.
Psychopath dude. He's super skinny, but can somehow do like push-ups with his feet not even on the ground. Like he's crazy strong, and he does this breathing where it's like, and then after 30 of those, it's not quite. It's pretty intense, and he does all the ice baths, but I do his breathing a bit, and like you're meant to hold a big breath in at the end and kind of like squeeze your whole body. But like it's like he calls it getting high on your own supply, and you literally pretty much have like a blackout. But then you kind of come to, and you just feel like super. Yeah, it's hard to describe, and it usually takes about 2 or 3 rounds to get to that stage. But yeah, he says like there's some kind of he's proven it does some kind of crazy chemical thing in your brain. But he got it off some old yogi from 10,000 years ago or something. So he's just reformatted something that already existed and made a lot of money. But
I'll look it up. I remember seeing him doing something in ice baths or just like in some like ridiculously cold water and just relaxing or something. Like I don't really care for water. I mean, I like to drink the stuff, and I mean I'll only swim if it's like we talking Fahrenheit here. If it's like 90 degrees Fahrenheit, then I'll swim. But I don't.
Right.
Water doesn't do that much for me. Take a shower, have a drink. But I see people in ice water. I'm just like, I'm not the same kind of human as you. I want nothing to do with that. So he fascinates me, man.
Yeah, it's crazy.
He fascinates me.
I wish I had ice pools around here to jump in. It's pretty cold in the winter. I'm 2 blocks away from the beach here. It's pretty cold in the winter, but I don't know. Ice baths are awesome if you're working out a lot for inflammation of your joints and your muscles. So
I came out of a sauna and went into a cold shower, and I had a raging headache, like raging. I was just like, no, I don't think this is for me, man.
Interesting.
I don't get it. But some people love it, right? We all got to do whatever. You really got to pay attention to your body and do what your body wants.
It's literally all you need to do at the end of the day. And then when shit goes wrong, you see the doctor and follow orders until the orders sound a little bit out of line with what you want to do. And then you take it back into your own hands. And then if that's not working, back to the doctor and do what they fucking say.
There you go, man.
That's been my journey, mate. It's, go with the flow, way of the woo, but also, control what I can and don't be dictated too much by the doctors, because they can say some pretty scary shit.
Right.
Yeah, they are only trained in the modalities that make the Western medicine world money. They are not ever going to educate you anything other than that. But that being said, a lot of what they do is effective and shouldn't be scoffed at. And I think a lot of the alternative medicine side of the world scoffs a little too hard at Western medicine, understandably why. However, yeah, I think the two can work a little bit more cohesively together, hopefully in the future. But at the moment, as it is, like, yeah, it's pretty frustrating how anti each other they are, and they won't help you see the other side of the coin.
There's like a mutual scoffing going on.
Yeah, 100%.
I've been on both sides, and it's amazing how angry people get, how divisive their communication can be about the other side of treatment. And
it's stressful, man. It's so stressful. And to be the person, and usually these people haven't had fucking cancer, usually. Right? Like most of these people probably haven't had cancer. And you're sitting here like, I am literally going through it. And like, come on, man. Like, give me a break.
There's benefits of both.
There's benefits of both. And don't make me, like, I already feel pressured to do that. And now you're making me feel pressured to do this and definitely not do that. Like, you know, make suggestions and let me make my own mind up. So
right, like there are accurate distinctions. For instance, like you said, Western medicine doesn't have treatment for the treatment. They ran me through chemo, radiation, surgery, then 6 months of chemo, and they had no treatment for the treatment. You know, I had physical therapy because my system had simply atrophied. I became so weak from not moving. But as far as like right now, my immune system, man, if someone gets a cold, they're sick for 3 days, I'm sick for 10. If someone gets a bad 10-day cold, I mean, last January, a year ago now, I was sick from January 2nd until like the 28th. And when I've spoken to doctors about like, look, all that chemo went into me, like there's got to be a way to like have my body come back and bounce back and be able to handle colds and viruses. And the reality is like right now, that is not the case. And they have no treatment for it at all. They say, oh, I could refer you to a nutritionist. Now, this isn't me bashing them, but it's just saying what's so. They're in the arena of finding the symptoms that will kill you and getting rid of those symptoms.
Yes.
Why did I get cancer? Cancer is a symptom. Something's happening in my body and it's going to kill me. So they got rid of those symptoms, and I'm glad they did because I'm still here.
Yes.
That said,
they don't usually address the cause.
They don't address the cause, and the hope is that, you know, that will begin. I have a friend who for a while she was in functional medicine. I'm like, oh, what's that? She goes, we could look at the root cause of our body's health and wellness, or lack thereof. And I was like, this is new? She's like, yeah, it's new to Western medicine, but we got a long way to go. A lot of growth needs to happen in the world of medicine, for sure, in the world of healing.
Makes me think I opened up a lot about my cancer journey on some of these platforms, and one bloke reached out to me. He's like, oh, it's so interesting, like what your diet has been, these 2-minute noodles and egg flips, because they, like, as soon as I said it starts to hurt swelling, they're like, oh, you should just eat ice cream and custard. That's probably what you should eat. And then this bloke had gone through pretty much exactly what I'd gone through, but he was, 10 years ago. And he's like, yeah, I followed the ice cream custard diet for, the 2 months or whatever that, everything else really hurt. Now I have type 1 diabetes forever. And, and he's really, like, he wasn't very healthy before then. And then they told him to do that. And then he developed late stage in his life type 1 diabetes. So I've been told, and still to this day, like, has to have his insulin, and didn't have it before cancer was because of this shithouse diet that the doctors had put him on for 2 months. So, that's why I just had noodles with no seasoning and little bits of crushed ice through them. So I, wasn't eating very nutritious food, but I certainly wasn't just filling my body with sugar and fat and crap, So, and that was a doctor's advice. Like, it just makes me a little bit frustrated that, I was given the same advice and, I didn't follow it. But And not to say, that everyone that just eats ice cream for a month, but, he must have eaten a lot and done crap all exercise. Like, he must have really pushed the boundaries of what was possible. But yeah, just interesting stuff like that,
Sounds brutal.
And yeah, going back, one more thing on my the West versus East is, so every drug that they can make, they can put a patent on. And if you can put a patent on it, you can make money off it. But you can't put a patent on anything that comes from the ground naturally. You can't, marijuana, for example, you can't own marijuana. It's, any company can go and start its own medical marijuana company or whatever other herb might be out there. There's no ownership of that stuff. And the earth produces everything it needs to sustain itself. And what's not to say, we as humans need to create things to cure a disease that, occurs naturally, sort of, within our bodies, so.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I've wondered, if sometimes we're trying to use a natural treatment for a disease that didn't arise naturally because of all the toxins in the air and in the water and in the food and, in what we put on our bodies. It's we as a planet, we as humans, we're very young in the conversation of healing our bodies, sustaining healthy bodies, and then treating our bodies when they're not well. There's so much to learn. We're in the infancy of this. I mean, it's totally. So obvious. I'm grateful for the radiation and the chemotherapy that I had. And that's some prehistoric stuff, man. It's like we're putting crazy amounts of poison in you so that way you can live. It's like, I'm looking forward.
There's going to be, there's 50 years down the line, they're going to laugh at what we used to do. But
yeah, some point down the road, they're going to be like, look what they used to do when someone had cancer.
How did
those poor bastards, how did they survive?
How did they even find it? I think they found it out through war and realizing that radiation somehow, I don't know, how they even worked it out to even be effective. It's
chemo too.
Yeah.
I think there's a great book called The Emperor of All Maladies, and it's a biography on cancer. And I'm not going to try to say the author's name because I would destroy it. But he wrote the book as a biography of cancer because he realized I'm talking about a living organism. This entity, this thing's alive. And so he addressed it and wrote it like a biography.
Wow.
And they talk about the first cancer treatments, for pediatric cancer, they just give these kids, it's heartbreaking to be quite honest, but you listen to them you read about them treating leukemia and giving these kids these blanket chemotherapies. And if I remember correctly, there was some kind of toxic gas used in war that actually, I'm not going to even attempt it. I'll just say that through exposure to it, there was reason to believe that it was actually, treating people's health or reversing people's health issues. And I think that's where chemo came from.
Wow.
And so they would do blanket chemos that would just make these kids so unbelievably sick. And over decades, they've been able to, get clearer and clearer and be able to refine it and make it more specific and have it make a difference. It's but we are we are in the infancy of it. I'm glad we have it, but man, I look forward to the future for the folks who don't have to do what we're doing.
Yeah, it's what do they say, dropping a bomb to try and kill the ants.
Yeah. Exactly. It's you want to get rid of some ants, so use a hand grenade.
Yeah. Blow up the dirt and everything around it. Yeah.
So, Jake, it's been great talking with you, man. It's been great getting to know you, for real.
You too, man. It's been a pleasure. You're a nice human.
Right back at
Friendly guy. No, I love what you're doing here, man. You're opening up real conversations with people, either way past it or going through it, or it's it's good. It's fucking hard having cancer, and to know that you're not alone and there are people with, similar struggles. And, spilled some ideas throughout this podcast, and I'm sure of all your other episodes. There's so much insight people can get. I know I've heard a couple of other, I forget the name of a couple of other podcasts I listen to, but sometimes you get, if I tune into these people that are kind of like a little bit too much of a know-it-all, and they're answering questions about how to treat and stuff, and it just kind of goes in one ear and out the other. And so I think a podcast like this is really powerful, where it can just be, two people having conversation about the ins and outs of their own personal experience without degrees in how to treat it and ideas behind it. And some ideas, hopefully. But I've had a good chat. This has been great.
I appreciate the acknowledgement, man. I find that, what do I love? Interviews are interesting if I want to learn a few things about a rock star, but like, I really love, real conversation when people just open up and take the time to just pick apart anything that interests them. And I have learned from listening to my listeners that people want real conversation, man. They don't want an interview. They don't want 20 minutes of just boom, boom, boom. Some people do, but there's folks out there that are craving real, genuine conversation. Jake, you're so generous, man. You're making yourself so damn vulnerable for so many people. And what that provides the opportunity and the space for someone else to do the same, because they're struggling with the same things you and I are struggling with. Yeah. And by you saying what you say, they're like, damn, thank you. Yeah. I've been putting up this front. I've been pretending this, pretending that. I'm done. I'm just going to be me. And there's going to be thousands of people, man, who are going to hear this, and they're going to be like, yeah, that dude gave me exactly what I needed. So right back at you, man. Thank you.
Thank you, mate. I appreciate it.
It's been great. Before we go, tell everyone where they can find you on social media.
Well, I only really use one platform openly, and that's Instagram. It's really easy. It's just at Jake O'Brien, JakeObrien. Feel absolutely free to reach out and say good day. I usually get back pretty quickly, and it's a nice space where you can, it's like, here's some shit I like, and you can actually have a conversation with me, and you're on the other side of the world and have some questions. And as soon as I kind of like started talking on I jumped into some Facebook groups and opened up about my journey and kind of put my Instagram handle in there saying, reach out if you want. And I started getting these freaking people coming my way being like, wow, cool story. Here's mine. What do you think about this, that, this? And, or like someone's like, my dad has this type of cancer and blah, blah, blah. And what do I do? And it's kind of like, fuck, like I'm not a doctor and I'm not qualified to give you advice, but here is my own experience. And here's some things that have helped me get through. They might or might not help you. And people get so appreciative. And usually the tips I give are pretty left field to what the doctors have already told them. So I don't know. I think, and I had this one girl in particular who was like, I've been showing my dad, because a few older people don't know what Instagram is and whatever, but so her daughter was showing her me going back to the gym after my treatment, and he had the same cancer, and it like re-inspired. She just kept communicating with me through his treatment, and we still keep in touch today. And just having like knowing that like just by talking about it, like you're sitting there making some older gentleman who is having a really, really shitty time suddenly light back up to life and go, oh, look at this young dude killing it, going back to the gym. And so he's even got a gym membership himself now. And, great, it's really cool. Even if like this reaches one set of ears that makes them, swing in the right direction, and it's been great, so.
Yeah, well, those of you listening right now, the reason Jake's on the podcast, or may I say the reason he's on it is he said yes, but the reason I invited him was because I was on Instagram, and like I said earlier, I was looking at your feed, and you were bringing conversations to me that matter. You talk about masculinity, or you talk about health and wellness, and you bring vulnerability to it, and it's honest and it's real. And by the way, he does respond to your comments if you write, because before I ever invited you, like I'd written a couple of things, and you got right on there, and you were talking with me, and you were like, yeah, I really appreciate that. Here's my experience. I was like, wow, this dude's real. Like, this is very cool.
Here I am, real person.
I feel very fortunate to have you as a guest.
Thank you, mate. I appreciate it.
Keep doing well.
You too, my man.
All the best to you, man. Thanks so much.
My absolute pleasure. See you, mate.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for tuning in. I truly hope this podcast was of value to you. Please subscribe and let your friends and family know they can find But Seriously, the Cancer Podcast, anywhere podcasts are made available. To learn more about my cancer survivorship coaching, please go to bertscholl.com. That's BERTSCHOLL.com. If you'd like to support But Seriously, the Cancer Podcast, please go to our Patreon page at patreon.com/But Seriously, the Cancer Podcast. And thank you so much for all you do. The intro and outro music you hear is a creation of Saint Kid. You can find him on social media as The Saint Kid. The purpose of this podcast is to provide a platform for individuals to discuss personal experiences with a medical diagnosis. The host and guests are not medical professionals, and the podcast is not intended to provide medical advice or psychological therapy. Whenever there is a concern about mental or physical health, please consult a qualified medical professional.